Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lunch with Laurie, where I schedule time with leaders in the industry to hear their perspectives about leadership and what's going on in the world, and hopefully challenge your thinking. And today, my guest is Carolyn Buck Luce, our 2012 Woman of the Year. She is a gifted strategist and currently the co-founder and managing partner of the boutique consulting firm, Imaginal Labs. And I say currently, as her life's journey has been a rich tapestry of experiences from being a diplomat, Wall Street banker, management consultant, healthcare futurist, talent innovator, professor, author, philanthropist, executive coach, wife, mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother. Hello, Carolyn, and welcome to lunch.
Well, I think you got it all.
Well, you are one busy woman, so, it was quite the mouthful. But, we're enjoying our lunch together, and quite often people are listening to this while they're enjoying their lunch. And so since you spent some time in Russia, if you were there right now, what would be on the local lunch menu?
Oh, well, borscht, which is a beet soup with a big dollop of sour cream on it. And then maybe a little what they call pelmeni, which is like an empanada, except in Russia.
An empanada in Russia. Okay, I've got it. Very cultural today. Well, Carolyn, I have known you for about a decade, which is apropos for this conversation because you will all see decade means something very important to Carolyn. She is a wise and generous, heart-based leader. Every time I speak with her, I am inspired how brilliant she is, how deep her spirituality flows, and really the incredible life she's led. She embraces it fully. She's climbed to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro and worked with indigenous leaders in the jungle of the Amazon. So I am honored to bring Carolyn into your lives. So dig in because you're going to also enjoy what Carolyn brings to your life. So Carolyn, you have this concept about a 10-year plan that you have shared with me, and you've shared it with a number of folks, and you've actually created the decade game out of it. So I would love if you could spend a bit of time and tell us about what this means and how you came up with it.
Well, first of all, I changed the name to the decade game because a 10-year plan seemed like a lot of work. And being able to actually create the best possible life for yourself is hard work. And the harder the work, the more fun you have to have if you're going to actually do it. So it's called the decade game. And it came to me when I was 8. I didn't know it was that then. But I was inspired. It was 1960. John F. Kennedy was running for president. And somehow I had a political awakening. I sort of woke up, to realize that there was more than just me, that there was a bigger world out there. My mom, who's 92, it was a real inspiration for me. She was one of only 2 women in her law school class, University of Chicago, and was a real social activist. So I was too at 8. I just wanted to have a life of meaning and purpose. And that's really what the decade game is. It's deciding, making a choice that you're going to have a life of meaning and purpose, that every area of your life is part of your life. It's not separate. There's not work and then life. That life encompasses everything that you care about. And that every day you can make choices to have that day be a life of meaning and purpose. And so the decade game is really about that. It's about being clear about why you're here, what your contributions can be to the people you love and the people who count on you. And to just lean into that and make sure that you are as powerful as possible so that you can empower others and make a contribution.
So, Carolyn, you were the Woman of the Year in 2012. So, have you switched from one decade to another since that point?
Yes, actually, that turned out to be quite a turning point for me. That was 2012. I was the Woman of the Year, which was a huge honor for me. I was also matriculating from my partnership with Ernst & Young because we had mandatory retirement for partners at 60 in the United States. And I also was getting married. So what a perfect time to create the Decade Game. And we chose to get married the day after the Mayan calendar ended. Now, the Mayan calendar is a 26,000-year cycle. And we got married 12/22/12, which was the first day of the new era. And I set a new decade game for myself.
Wow. that is pretty meaningful on so many levels. And as I have talked to you before, you've mentioned that you have moved from the concept of sort of being in the game where you were, in that workforce as, the warrior. And then you started to move into being more of the wise elder. And I personally know that because you've given me wisdom on many occasions. Are there some highlights that have happened to you since that you were the Woti that really triggered you, that you knew you were on the right path?
Yes, and let me just say that, every decade is a different decade. You're moving. If you think about your life, you're moving from being an adult psychologically in your parents' home until you create your own household, where you become psychologically your own head of household. And in those adult years, in the 20s, you're really trying to establish yourself that way. In the 30s, you're really trying to understand who are you in the world. And then you begin to practice that in the 40s and the 50s. So the warrior phase, moves you through the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. But at some point in time, it's no longer your work to climb the mountain. Instead, it's no longer your work to be the head of. The next phase is really what I call the elder phase. And that is where your job is to be the wisdom keeper and share what you've learned. And, one of the best ways I can describe it is just a little visual. When you throw a rock into the water, the first thing that happens is the ripples come towards the rock. That's the forces of the universe coming into you and through you. That's the warrior adult phase. But then if you wait, all of a sudden, the ripples begin to dissipate. And you begin to give away the power. And that's really the elder phase. So at 60, as I set my decade game for 70, and the game always starts with imagining yourself 10 years later and saying, wouldn't it be cool if I knew myself, if the people who love me knew me, and if the people who count on me knew me in a certain way? So here I was leaving this big corporate executive thing, and I set my game at 70 to say, wouldn't it be cool if at 70, if you Googled the term organizational shaman and best global village elder, my name would come up. And as soon as you do that, that becomes a commitment to become that and move into a next beautiful chapter of your life.
So what I'm hearing you say is you you envision something 10 years out. So it's not like a plan that has all the details and career and I'm this course and that course and what have you. You are at a much higher level. You're really seeing where you could be and envisioning it. And the concept of a shaman, I mean, that is, I'm sure that probably was connected to some of the work you did down in the Amazon and some of the things you saw there. So in terms of the things that you are now dissipating in terms of wisdom, are there things that you are doing or you're able to share with others that are helping you with the stress that's going on right now? I mean, we have many things happening in our lives, from a pandemic to racial inequities that are just, the light has been shone on those, and we have to face them. We have political upset. I mean, we have so many things happening all at the same time. What can we do to help manage this stress?
Well, for me, I play a long game, which is, not obsessing about the snapshot, but really looking at the moving picture. And to be able to really know what my work is. One of the things about women is we like to know that we're doing our job well. So what's important is to really give yourself a job description that's worth doing. And your job isn't what they're paying you to do. Your job is, how do you become the best leader and human you can be at home, at work, and in the world. That's the job. And so to be able to really lean into that purpose, to sort of know that you're here for a reason, and that reason has probably inspired you for your choices already. For women in healthcare, it could be, my purpose is to make the world healthier or more equitable or more just, or to do everything I can to create a healing environment. It could be any of those things, but that's the purpose. And so every day, whatever's happening isn't happening to us. It's happening for us. It's an invitation to be your best self and do your best job and bring your own magic into the world. So the way I handle stress is I don't take any of what's happening personally. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. It's an invitation. What can I do today to be a calming presence, to not be attached to outcomes, but instead be attached to possibilities? And to know that my work doesn't have to be done in my lifetime. I just need to be a contributor to the work that has happened before me and will continue. And just think about this. We had, this year is the 100th anniversary of women, that they say, getting the vote. We didn't get the vote. Women fought for the vote. Women fought for the vote for over 70 years. And then we got it, but then we didn't really get it. Women of color were disenfranchised. And now's the time to use our voice. So for me, getting up every day and knowing what my job is, and knowing I can do that job well, that really helps me handle the stress and the uncertainty of this world.
But it sounds like we've converted this, we turned it around and reframed it from things happening to us to now we're taking control. And as soon as we can take control of a situation, it gives us more comfort. So I love that advice. And the other thing that I hear you talking about is you say to leaders to be courageous leaders. And when people are courageous leaders, they also need to really know what their gifts are that they're bringing to the table. So is there a way that, how do I know what my gifts are? How do I know, how you're talking about contributing your life's work? How do I know what my contribution is?
Well, I would say go do some market research. Go ask people. ask, what is it about me that makes a difference for you? You know, a courageous, I love the word courageous, courage. It comes from the word heart, kur. And it means actually to go forward with your heart in your mouth at times of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. And we are certainly here. If you don't know what your gifts are, if you don't know the impact that you have on others, if you don't know why is it that people call you, chances are they're not calling you for your technical expertise. Instead, they're calling you because of the way you share that expertise in a way that can help them. Here's something is that, a brand, someone's own brand is how people feel when they engage with you. So if you don't know what your gifts are, if you don't know what your superpowers are, do some market research. Go ask 4 people from different spheres, what is it about me that helps you be you? You're going to find out.
Oh, I love that. That's so, A, it's so simple, but B, it is what a relationship question to talk with someone and deepen your relationship with them. And you framed it in such a way that I'm helping you. What is it that I do that helps you? Which is a great way of asking that. So I am sure at this point in time, you've given people lots of advice, especially to women who sometimes may have a different life experience than their male colleague. Are there certain top pieces of advice that you offer to women?
Oh, where do I start? First of all, what I would say is don't take anything personally. The world isn't quite ready for us. It's really not ready for us, but the world needs us. The world really needs us to really be in our power. Except when we hit what I call the Goldilocks syndrome, where we hear, we're too this or too that, but never just right. And we take that personally. Don't take it personally. It's not against you. It's just the way the world has been for so long. So that's one. Don't take things personally.
Okay.
Number 2, stop telling yourself stories that aren't true. You have a crazy roommate in your head that never stops talking. And it tells you to doubt yourself. It tells you to dim your light. It tells you to be a little bit less than you can do. It tells you don't take that risk. It's not worth it. Don't listen to her. My advice for women is to really be committed to find your voice and use it. And don't be afraid. If you think about all the things you have not done or hesitated to do because of what would other people think or feel, it begins to add up. And the third thing I would say is don't be your best kept secret. There is modesty, false modesty is not going to help the world. This is the Sophia century. This is the time. That's what many of the prophecies of indigenous culture say. This is the time for women to take their rightful place with men in order to be able to heal the world and make the world a place. So lean into your purpose. Why are you here? And know that the world needs you to be all that you can do.
Wow, that was that was really meaningful, Carolyn. I appreciate that because I didn't know you knew I had a crazy roommate in my head, but now it's out. We all know. So thank you, Carolyn, so much for spending your lunch break with me, and I hope this has been helpful for others as they are planning out their next decade. And I would also ask everyone if they would please join me next month before the winter holiday break, when I will be chatting with Dr. Sophia Ananye to build upon the stellar advice we just heard from Carolyn and talk about how to tackle pretty much any obstacle in your path, which she has done. So this has been Lunch with Laurie. I hope this was nourishment that refueled your leadership tank. So until next time, bon appetit.